to my chess stream here on lichess and Twitch. International Master William Paschall. Hopefully we're good to go. We're doing a subscriber stream. This is Thursday. We usually go over our subscribers' games that are submitted to the stream. If you are a subscriber to the Twitch stream and you would like to have your game analyzed live on the stream, excuse me, please submit it via lichess to myself or Soltigo here in the you can also send a message to Soltigo, our moderator, here in the chat, but usually we don't need to do that. You can directly send me a game if you're a subscriber to my account, Sparkle Horse on lichess. Sparkle Horse on lichess, or Slaggy on Twitch. What's up, everyone? Asterbait, Mubot, Soltigo, Mr. Coffee. You guys are here, raring to go. I've got submissions from Nefedov, Move 11, Asterbait, and Soltigo. You can also check out our Discord channel. Asterbait writing a book on Discord. That's just one of his posts I think he's referring to. Our Discord channel, Pub Slaggy. You guys can pretty much interact with each other. It's like a community for my stream. And not just my stream, but for all you guys. Welcome, everyone. So, Move 11, your game quite interesting. We've got a game from Nefedov first, then Move 11, then Asterbait, then Soltigo. For the moment, that's the order for which we're gonna start, and I expect more games as we go through it. Lately, we've had a lot of submissions from the viewers, or rather the subscribers, so I don't really have time to do other stuff like play Blitz. In the initial stages of this subscriber stream, I used to mix in some Blitz games and stuff like that, but there's just not enough time. I like to spend a really good amount of time, like 15-20 minutes on each game. And so it breaks down to 2.5 hours, which is 150 minutes. So we can do 10 games, 15 minutes apiece of analysis. That is the plan. Tomorrow we have morning stream to appease the European subscribers and friends. So tomorrow 10 a.m. it'll be Blitz 5+3 casual. Okay, guys, without further ado, I'd just like to remind you, please support the stream. We've had lots of subscribers lately. It's been good. Please support the stream with donations if you can, bits or PayPal. I really appreciate it because you know, we don't make that much money off of this. I'm just doing it out of my love for chess, and any little bit I can get back, I appreciate. So, I mean, the big time Twitch, you know, people who are gaming make a lot of money, but chess streamers typically, you know, not making a big income here. So I appreciate your donations and your support. All right, without further ado, let's get started with Nefedov. By the way, our YouTube channel, Video Chess Training over on YouTube, is where I do upload the streams. If you guys want to watch an old stream, you can do that. So Murderous Spartan, also a subscriber here. Tomato Juice, a new guest. Actually, he's been here a couple of times. So let's get started with the game analysis. Move 11, no. Nefedov was the first one. Where is it? There it is. His last over-the-board game of the season, Summer League Round 5. Kind of cool to have a Summer League. Like in Hungary, we don't have any kind of Summer League. I don't even know what Hungarian team I'm on. My team is like probably breaking up into 2 teams, and there's the old team and the new team, and who's going to claim me? I don't know. I might not be able to play that many games this season because I'm going to be going back from Hungary and back and forth from Hungary to the United States. Last year I played every single round. Like for the first time maybe ever, I played every single round of the Hungarian Team Championship with 1 win and 9 draws, something like that. I won my first game and then drew all the rest. They got a little disappointed after a while. It got a little old. So, alright, let me check this message again. Round 5? Is this the right game that I'm looking at? Sturt Raven. Is it possible to challenge while watching on mobile? It's an analysis stream. No, it's not Sturt Raven. It's Sturt Charlie. Now, do we have the right game here from Nefedov? That's the question. He's got this Summer League Round 5, my last OTB game of the season, but Summer League Round 5. That's it. All right. I think he organizes it so it's always first. Bob resubscribed for 5 months in a row. Thanks so much, man. We know you're a troublemaker, but you're a good troublemaker, so thank you for being part of the stream. So here, Pavel Nefedov playing white e4, e6, d4, d5, and now a very, very unusual move, which I've actually never seen before, queen e2. Terry Lilas, what's up? Otherwise known as Morwa. Alright. So I don't know anything about this strange move. I do know, that I've played queen e2, Chigorin's move. Juicebox Wizard, what's up, man? Good to see you. More active here in the stream. Pavel means brick in Slovenian. That's interesting. I mean, I think it just means Paul, But it can mean brick. It means Paul in most Eastern European languages. So here it's Pal in Hungarian, P-A-L. E4, E6, and now you can play queen E2, or you can play like a King's Indian attack with D3, and obviously after D5. This is kind of trendy at the moment. I thought you were serious. Just made that up. JCS is here. Good to see you. So what Paul does here is a little bit different. These King's Indian attacks with queen e2 are totally opposite of this. So we have queen e2 here. You just made this up. Is it just me, or is that strange? I mean, Nefedov, who's so really systematic about his approaches to different openings, he decides here, is Nefedov... Oh, I'm confusing things. I gotta get my focus on. Alright. Bob said I just made that up, and then I thought Nefedov said he just made this up. But I don't think Nefedov's even in the stream yet, so I've got to focus and not try to mix like people in the stream chatting with what's going on in the game. Alright. Don't know where Nefedov got this from, and I don't know if he's in the stream yet. It's kind of early for him, but it seems strange, the queen e2 here. It was played by Zweigentsev in a game in 2010. It does sound true. That's why I believed it. It sounds like, oh, Nefedov just made it up. Yeah. So here we go with d takes e4. But black didn't do that. He plays knight f6. Knight f6 is not a bad move. But I mean, I think one of the threats here might be for white to like take on d5. Though that does seem controversial. Nefedov is here. You're in the stream. 2 pints before the game equals queen e2. Is that the whole story to it? Or have you actually seen this move or even experimented with it before? It's just absolutely I'll think of a weird move. 2 pints before the game. Yeah, that usually has an effect on me too. Cheers. Sometimes I played better when I was drinking during my games. Let's see here. Queen e2. But, yeah, I mean, I feel like with d3 it makes more sense. It's like a closed position. You can justify it more. Obviously, d takes e4 makes a lot of sense because you're trying to do the opposite. You're opening the position, trying to exploit the queen. And then, like, white has nothing better than to take with the queen. Here is Zweigentsev doing this. I mean, when you see a single game like this, it's entirely possible that like Zweigentsev and Malakatko are like friends or something, and they're just like making a funny prearranged draw, You were 12 minutes or 15 minutes late for your overboard game. Okay, another reason for your strange choice of opening, perhaps, to make your opponent think. I would prepare your strange ideas in advance, a little bit, at least a little bit, Nefedov. Just have a go in a few blitz games with it. Had you done that? So he doesn't exploit with that. He plays knight f6. This is a good move, but I was thinking that white can take on d5. We obviously don't have a recapture. One of Chigorin's ideas, I guess, is that black can't recapture with the pawn on d5. And I can tell you from experience that knight takes d5, the Scandinavian with knight f6 is, it's not that great, and this is a kind of version of that in a way where both sides have a kind of strange position. So I'm not afraid of that. And the queen takes, well, that's kind of interesting because we're hitting d4. White could play knight f3, but maybe we'll get a tempo back with knight c3, some kind of weird Scandinavian You could also just be a complete wimp and play something like queen b5 check and trade queens into this endgame where black, I don't know, does black really have an advantage here? I mean, maybe something, yeah, he has two pieces out, but with a symmetrical structure, white's still close to equal. Anyway, like, it's a weird opening. Don't do this in a serious game. Okay, so he doesn't do that. He plays e5. This also makes some sense. The problem is, unlike the Chigorin variation with queen e2, you would normally keep the pawn back on d3, not on d4. So you could play this position, and you could find this position where white has a pawn on d3, almost undoubtedly. But with the pawn on d4, it seems like, first of all, black can undermine the center with c5. Secondly, he could be walking into like bishop a6 at some point, hitting the queen. I just feel like it's easier for black to open the position now that your pawns are pushed up to d4 and e5. e5 you could probably support with like f4. I've done that before in those queen e2 Frenches, but here it's a little different. So knight fd7 and then f4. You have a book position where your pawn is on d4 instead of d3. That's what I would say. Standard Chigorin setup. This should be back here. The so-called like pawn clamp or whatever, the big clamp type of setup. Computer gives f4 dubious, but I don't know, you know, what are you supposed to play? Something like c3 isn't going to change things too much. f4 makes some sense. Black plays c5. This move is given a dubious mark by the annotating stockfish here. What? Wait, who gave this a dubious? Wait. I don't understand. There's a note here that says inaccuracy, the best move was b5. Okay, this was probably analyzed with like a mobile phone or something. I mean, okay, that might be some interesting move. A deep thought found this. That's very strange, you know, some kind of speculative pawn sack. c5 dubious, I don't think so. c5 is like definitely a normal move. I mean, what do you want him to play in this position? c5 looks utterly normal. I don't understand, you know, what else would be played. Alright. These are like stored, are these stored evaluations here I'm looking at? Like -0.5? It's like a stored evaluation from Nefedov's game, I think. These are not my evaluations from my computer. These are stored evaluations. It's like Nefedov must have analyzed it with his iPhone or something. It's more like an old Samsung. There's no way that white is 0.7. Well, we're not going to get the result yet, Sir Danik. I like to keep you in suspense. This all looks pretty logical. Bishop a6, queen f2, and well, you know, bishop takes f1 makes an awful lot of sense because it would force white to make some sort of concession. Are we really taking with the queen, then moving the queen again, then trying to castle? The cow jumps over the moon. Are we going to castle queenside? I mean, that's not out of the realm of possibility. But I mean, what are we doing with the king after rook takes f1? That's what bothers me here. You know, I don't know. We can't even play like king f2, king g1. That's going to cost another tempo. So it's a little hard. He analyzed with the Commodore 64, yeah, something like that. There's no way white is like tons better here. Maybe a small advantage. So rook takes. Yeah, I was seriously thinking about queen takes, and then moving the queen again and castling. That's reasonable. Alright. Rook takes f1. I just don't know where the king's going. But he didn't play that. He played bishop e7, just developing. And now Nefedov played knight on bd2. The problem is if you bring the knight out to a6, I guess we have to contend with the possibility of black going knight to b4. Server request analysis from before, right? I realize that, but the question is like, what kind of engine was he using? At the bottom, these are what my computer's thinking now. 0.7, 0.7. The 0.9 up here is like what was stored in there when Nefedov first analyzed the position, I thought. But maybe I'm wrong, actually. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm surprised that my engine is thinking this is plus 0.7 for white. I mean, it doesn't seem that good. So knight on bd2. looks reasonable. I mean, you have to ask yourself the question, you know, do ancient aliens... No, I'm just kidding. Bishop takes a6. I mean, we don't mind putting this guy's knight on a6, Pavel, you know. The only thing is this knight b4. So I kind of like that. I mean, you're passing up on the opportunity to castle. And actually, knight b4 is protected by the queen on f2. So I don't like this. You know, this guy's crazy to do that. I mean, figuratively crazy. Like, he has the chance to take on f1, I think, and make you do something awkward where it's gonna take you a while to castle normally. And instead, he plays this, and you could take on a6, and c2 is protected, and you could just castle. I'm hard pressed to see like how you can't play this move, because bringing his knight out to a6 is not a great square. It's not like you're developing his knight to c6 or something. He finally releases the tension here. We got to watch for knights coming into e4. I've seen every episode of Ancient Aliens. It's not true. I don't think I've seen the new ones. I'm not sure about which way to recapture. The computer obviously, you know, wants to do knight takes d4, and it's more natural. But you have to think about bishop takes sometimes. Bishop would be well centralized there, and it might give the queen an interesting square at e3. We could try to do like bishop takes, followed by putting the queen on e3. Just kind of getting good control of e4. Just circumventing any sort of knight's sort of c5, e4 business. Computers for black coming up with queen c8. Nice maneuvering. Queen c8, maybe queen b7, further controlling e4. It's all about the center. If you have any questions concretely about the position, guys, just let me know. So knight takes d4. Natural move, right? And we'd love to play f5 if we can get that in. Now Nefedov could take with the knight if he was really, really interested in castling kingside. But now he has options to castle both sides. This is starting to get interesting. So obviously this is done in the Steinitz or classical French at some times, but you've always got to be careful because this is a half-open file against your king. You know, as is the case in the Sicilian and the classical French sometimes. So it's often safer to castle on the king side. Do GMs play French? Of course. So knight c5, man. So he just didn't want to castle. I would seriously consider playing g6 here with black. I mean, it's ugly and it's passive, but it does stop f5. And if g4, things happen. So this little problem here with bishop h4. You could hold up white a little bit with g6. I like white. I think white's better. An alternative plan might, you know, be like c4, but that would be great if white was castled kingside. Here, he's probably going to castle queenside. So black didn't show a lot of appreciation for this pretty basic pawn break. Knight c5 actually taking pressure off of e5, literally enabling white to play f5, which is like devastating. The classic French break in devastating fashion. Now the queen is actually posted in a pretty aggressive place. We can go to g3. There's the f file. Nefedov was like killing the guy. Can black survive? Then this move, which is like pointless. We play g3. Okay, he robbed you of your option to play queen g3. Yeah, this just looks like lights out. F takes e6, threatening mate on f7. So black is splattered. He had to play a crazy move here. He castles. And now pawn takes f7 check, king h8. And here we see h4. So for love of the panda, Chess Panda has been summoned. I wonder if Nefedov was thinking this after 2 pints.
Hey, what's up? You know, h4, I really like it. It reminds me of bamboo, but I just don't know if h4 is really the most formative continuation here. Okay, maybe we should look for something better. So Nefedov was thinking, all right, I've just got to find a way to play h4. So William will put the panda in the in the analysis stream. It just doesn't feel like h4 is
priority. I mean, I would want to get my king out of the center. Like, can we just castle here? Nothing wrong with castling, right? I like that. I mean, the truth is there's a lot of good moves. You could play bishop takes g5 and queen f4 or something like that. I mean, this has got to be strong, you know. You're just like crushing the guy with 2 connected passed pawns on the E and the F files. It's over, but it's not over yet. You just need a little bit of technique, in other words. No excuse if you didn't win this game. Even h4 is a good move. But I feel like he played that only for the ponda. And then the guy played what? What was this guy's rating? Result 1-0. Okay, we don't have ratings. Battersea Chess Club. Battering comes to mind here. Queen takes, D takes e4. And Pavel was so in love with his position that he forgot about knight e6. Yeah. He wanted to give the guy a feeling that he had a chance. So he played queen takes e4. And this is one of the more lopsided Nefedov games that we've seen. Now we're only up the exchange with 2 connected passed pawns. Finally, I moved 22 castles. Lord on us. Thank you for hanging out with us. And there's really no chance of black surviving this. Highly accurate finish. We can just pin it and win it. Actually, we're mating him. Whoops. Never mind. All right, that was pretty brutal, man. Pretty brutal, Nefedov. I think you could have come up with a more complicated game. I mean, you really seem to have that under control. But I'm curious about your opponent's elo. Like, would you take this risk to play queen e2 against a stronger player? Okay. So that's the first game. Our second game is a really complicated game. A really interesting game by Move 11. Study not available. No, this is available. Alright. So, the story behind this game is that Move 11 was in contention for a really, really good prize in a recent tournament, and he needed to win or draw to at least tie for the first place. And this was the game in question where he needs to win or draw. I haven't seen Arsenal in the house yet. So, very important game here. Both players around 1900 US ratings applying here. So knight f3, move 11, d5. We worked on this a little bit together, and I think this is just a great system for black against the King's Indian attack. A very simple approach to knight f3 and g3 is to play bishop g4. I've played this more with white than with black, but through my experiences, I know how difficult or impossible it is to actually get an advantage. So, yeah, it's not too late to submit a game, Niels, it's not too late. So bishop g4, bishop g2, sorry, bishop g4, bishop g2, and now knight d7. I think this is one of the more accurate move orders. A game I had against an Indian guy, Pranav Anand, in the Budapest Spring Open. I drew with this guy. It was like 2200. I was actually worse and with white, and I ended up holding, but I didn't play c4 here, which I consider to be the best move. It also seems to be the most common. I mean, castles is flexible. You can definitely do castles, but c4 seems like the most incisive. And your opponent played a kind of weird move here, h3. I remember seeing Maurice Ashley years ago. Maurice Ashley of commentator fame now, but Maurice, back in his playing days, he was a decent player who eventually got the GM title. Not much higher rated than me in my prime, but a little bit. I remember watching Maurice once. He did something like trading on f3 and then trying to do c6, queen c7, and trying to actually castle queenside and start some kind of quick attack. I mean, I really think here, we haven't discussed this, but bishop takes f3. You know, you got to think about the result you need. Is a win much different than a draw, or do you just need a draw? You know, this is relevant. I wasn't sure. If a draw is enough, then you're definitely playing this move. But this move can also be used as like an attacking system. So we play like c6, queen c7, and then maybe even throw the h-pawn at white. I've had some pretty scary games, so I don't like to do this when I'm white. I don't like to play h3 too early. It's not a constructive move. It seems to encourage black to do this really crazy aggressive stuff. And if you look here, bishop h5 is actually more common than bishop takes f3, but bishop takes f3 has a good, you know, reasonable score, and it actually is recommended by Stockfish, so I have no problem either way. You might call bishop h5 more aggressive because it doesn't trade pieces. You know, that might be. If you definitely have to win, not trading pieces is usually the best thing to do. Alright, castles, he's committed. Now you played, what, c6? This is good. So versus Giri versus So here. It's 2 games, maybe the same game. Might have a double. White plays d3, black plays e5. I've played this position before, actually more commonly with black. You would catch me playing the black side of the King's Indian against the Tory attack here, and now I would typically play Queen e1. I mean, I've probably played this exact position for white. Minassian, someone like that. Let's see, you got all kinds of players, but Queen e1 is just one of many moves here for white. White just played a straight up e4. That's fine. So he trades on e4. This is standard. It's not forced to play d takes e4. I have seen some players try to not play d takes e4, but I think it's the correct plan. I mean, you're basically playing this exchange because you're killing the bishop on g2. This bishop on g2 is just nullified by its own pawn on e4. And I did a system analysis of Petrosian on the King's Indian attack for chesslecture.com, and I played the King's Indian defense all my life. I know what bishops like this are like. We have to get it out later on via f1 or h3, and in fact, you know, this might turn out to be a strong bishop down the line, but for the time being, the bishop is a big problem. It's like a passive defender. Okay, so knight f6 looks okay. Queen e1 again is transposition. 2 games that I've played. There's no reason you have to play that immediately, I guess. But this move is not something I'm really familiar with. This move is okay, but it looks strange, and I would think that nobody would play it in this position. This is a move that we would reach the position because white had played knight c3 before playing e4. And then he played e4, and then black captured on e4, and he recaptured with the pawn. Basically, I don't see any reason to put the knight on c3 voluntarily. Knight is actually not very well placed there because it's got nowhere to go. You know, it's not going to b5, it's not going to d5. These games where you see George Hickle here, who's, by the way, like a great player with 1 g3, they're games where white put the knight on c3 before. There's no reason for this move. Bishop c5 standard. Let me see. David Norwood. The 2 leading 1 g3 players in the 90s. George Hickle and David Norwood. Yeah. But in any case, white here played queen e2, but it doesn't break the pin. That's the weird thing about queen e2. Queen e1 breaks the pin. No one has played queen e2. It's actually Stockfish's recommendation. Okay, this guy does not play the way I would play this. So queen e2, not getting out of the pin. Now you castled. You could wait a little bit more with queen c7. I kind of like that move. I like it when white does this too, because he weakens his king side, he weakens the f4 square. We could think about knight f8, knight e6, and actually knight f4. Knight e6, knight f8, knight d4. So delaying castling could give you additional options of actually playing the knight through f8, like it was an Orthodox Queen's Gambit or some kind of Joko piano. So there's not necessarily a forced reason to castle here. g4, bishop g6. Okay, I don't like the way that white's played this. Knight c3, g4, queen e2. It all seems kind of weird to me. But he didn't do that yet. He played castles. Bishop e3. Yeah. I mean, this is just a player who doesn't really understand strategy if you're playing bishop e3. Bishop e3 is like a weaker player trying to play for a draw by blindly trading pieces. That's what it appears to me. But actually this is This is actually a very bad positional mistake for white, because this is his good bishop. He has pawns, well, the center is fixed on e4. That means his dark squared bishop is the better piece, you know. So he's now trading his good bishop for black's bad bishop. This is generally what you don't want to do when you're white. So he's voluntarily making like the wrong move here. Black plays queen e7. And this is a reasonable move. I mean, eventually you're going to have to protect the bishop or make a decision with it. You know, there are various things you could do. Let me like put it this way. If you played this, and he played this, and you played this, and he played this, there's almost no way in the world that black could possibly lose this position. It's just the most simplistic way to play the position, where you're just like, I mean, even if you went here, what the heck is white doing? This is a game right there, 2100 against 2280. The 2100 managed to draw with white, but if you needed a draw, man, I mean, this is probably the way you should go. Just keep it super simple. But move 11 started playing like Magnus Carlsen here. He's like Magnus against Mamedyarov. You know, it's not enough for him, you know, a draw. He actually plays to keep it kind of tense. So if the win is worth more than the draw, then it's okay. Queen e7 is okay. If you just need a draw, you should simplify. Here. And then this move, which, again, Magnus Carlsen style with b5. But b5 is a kind of weird move, you know. I mean, it's not very fundamental. I don't know. You know, putting a rook on the open file. How about like rook e8, overprotecting your strong point, and preparing possibly, you know, the above knight f8, knight e6, knight d4 kind of maneuver. I know that you're talking about g4. I hate g4, Bob, and I try to avoid playing it if I can ever help it. You know, I hate g4. It weakens the f4 square. It's ugly, but it might happen in a couple moves here. So he plays b5. That's a provocative move, right? And now white plays what, a3, because he's scared of something that I don't quite comprehend. I mean, a3, it's like a reactionary move. Does black even want to play b4? Not really. Like, you don't. Well, okay, we have to calculate. Is b4 going to win the pawn on e4, or is that going to unleash a torrent of tactics? It's a good question. Okay, maybe it's a threat. I don't like a3, and I don't like weakening the queen side. And then move 11 found the best knight on b6 I've seen for a long time. His knight is actually shielded by the pawn on b5. Knight b6 is almost always a bad move. But in this case, what's up past pawn 99? This is like the best knight b6 I've seen in a very long time, because it's protected by the pawn on b5. It's behind the pawn chain. It's gone to c4. Looks pretty good. And then the guy goes g4, for lack of a better plan, bishop g6. And then now knight h4, very standard King's Indian type of thing. It's just, this position is just so far, you know, like a classic example of white not having a clue what he's doing in the King's Indian attack type of situation. Yet, still, black's advantage is only small. I like knight c4, but it may be a mistake, because it turns out that he could have like corrected his earlier mistakes by playing bishop c1, move 11. And I think this would have saved his butt, basically. You gave him a chance to avoid that exchange he's been allowing for like 10 moves. So it looks like at this point you just have to bite the bullet and play bishop takes, execute that exchange, and then play knight c4. And now make him play queen c1. And I mean, this is just an ugly position for white. It just is, you know. So that was a chance for him to simplify, but he didn't. He played bishop takes c5, so you're good again. And then after queen takes, he plays b4, weakening his queen side. You got various moves here. Okay, solid. Now knight f5. Now here, I'd like to play bishop takes f5. However, it does have some issues, primarily like the long diagonal. Since you did play b5, there may be some hell to pay after this. The one downside of b5 for black on the queen side is that in the event of this happening, we might have a problem, Houston. So if we go back a moment and think about it logically, when he played b4, you know, you got to anticipate this move knight f5 obviously being in his cards. This is why you probably should have played like queen b6, I guess, because on knight f5, I'm thinking we have a better chance to just hack that off. Or maybe just ignore it, anything. It's not attacking anything, you know, even just rook e8. I honestly think black is better here. And queen b6 also pins his f2 pawn, so it's hard to decide between queen e7 and queen b6, but it's a little more like safe on b6. And so then you play queen e6, which could get a little weird, like if he plays maybe h4 and bishop h3 or something like that. In general, not a bad square for the queen. I've seen it pop up in, you know, white putting like the queen on e3, king's Indian attack. Okay, now he played very aggressively with a4, and now you could just simply play a6. Okay, I thought that a6, you know, is a move of a player who wins money if he draws or wins. a5 is the move of a player who like only makes money if he wins. You know, to me, I mean, you probably weren't thinking about the tournament standing as much as I would have, but I'm actually going to change the way I play. Like if I'm desperate to win, I might play a move like this, but it looks risky. Like why don't you just play a6? I mean, this pawn on b4 is looking really, really weird, you know. Can that pawn really remain safe for the rest of the game? I don't know. Yes, he can play a5, but in the event of you playing like c5 later on, I'm thinking that white is a little suspicious here. Even just like rook c8 and then trying to play c5 might be good. So a5 was like, again, Magnus Carlsen getting really aggro, and white blundered. He had a takes b. So a takes b, and then this sacrifice that was played in the game, ironically, was really, really strong for him. But that was hard to see. You think, okay, that was hard to see, but watch what happened in the game. The guy goes here, takes on a5, and then he takes the pawn forward with b4. And now white could have played a normal move, like moving his knight, but he decides to sacrifice a piece here, just launching into total chaos. Now, if white was in a situation where he had to win to make money, well, I understand this move. You know, I totally understand. This is total desperation, and it probably doesn't work. But I'll give white credit for, you know, creativity. So his idea is the knight is hanging, but I mean, it's hard to believe he missed queen a6. You know, this simply defends the knight. Now, knight e7 check wasn't played. That's supposedly the best move. So you had this move. And now move 11 missed his best continuation. I'm sure that he saw it. We got a comment here. I was wondering about the same question. When is it good to sack there and keep that knight pinned, and when isn't it? I mean, I think, you know, you take risks for certain reasons. If you need to win the tournament, you're going to take more risks. But check this out now. I mean, I looked at the game the first time and I thought, okay, bishop takes f5, bishop takes a8. This is why move 11, you know, didn't want to do this. But actually, this would have taken a lot of the steam out of white's position. I mean, we play bishop e6, and we guard the knight on c4, and we just start to scoop up pawns. So, tough position to find, you know, but you see at the end of the day, pawn, 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 pawn. You know, all of white's pawns are like weaknesses. And we actually still have two knights for a rook. I mean, so we have not only like a better pawn structure, kind of more compact position, but in fact two knights for the rook. Move 11 had a really good shot here. He probably failed to find the move bishop e6, and I'm not sure I would have seen it either, because I was looking at queen takes a8, I think, allowing him to capture one of these pieces. Actually, even this is good for black, though the d-pawn does remain on the board. This is our main problem, the passed d-pawn. So move 11 after d6, he doesn't take, he plays rook a7, and it looks like, okay, everything's okay. But knight e7 check, king h8, and knight c6. Apparently white isn't just down a pawn, he's not just down a piece here, like he really has compensation for the piece. It's just like chaos. An absolutely chaotic position. He missed d7 now. Threatening to promote the next move. I have no idea what move 11 intended here. I mean, okay, you gotta take it, right? Knight takes, and then knight c6. and the rook's attacked, so I would assume, let's say, rook c7, and now, I don't know, it just looks like, actually this does look good. Similar to the game. d7, knight takes d7, it has to find bishop c6, this is a computer move, double threat going here. Oh, alright, that's hard to find. That's very hard to find. Okay, so he didn't find it. Failed to find this. He plays the second best move. This is also very complicated. And now move 11 played knight takes a5. He has to trade queens, and now you're thinking, oh man, this is great. You know, we got rid of the queens. We're out of the woods. But the problem is, he takes this pawn, and now white remains with, like, you know, kind of dangerous pawn on d6. Here, the computer just bravely plays bishop takes c2. Move 11 blundered, I guess. I'm just trying to think what I would have done in this situation with black. I mean, yeah, probably bishop takes c2. You've got to watch out for d7, obviously. That's not going to work, is it? Well, maybe this is actually, like, pretty cool. Take, take, and then, you know, you can't stop d8. At the end of the day, it might be actually quite equal. Knight takes e5, so... yeah, bishop takes c2 is possible. He played instead knight e8, which is a question mark. d7, and now suddenly black's in precarious situation. Knight d6, blocking the queen. But like white lost the initiative. Knight c6, and this is apparently a blunder. He has better moves like rook e1. Okay, let's see. Knight c6, knight on bd7. I mean, move 11 gave me the impression, that he was just like up a piece and he lost. But it wasn't like that, you know. I mean, this guy had some compensation. It was a kind of complicated position. I don't think it was trivial by any means at any point, you know. The best chance he missed was bishop takes f5. That was probably winning. But I would say that one chance with bishop takes f5 was the only really clear win that black had. Now, this is the other move that's sort of stymied me. I can't understand why move 11 didn't play rook takes a4 in this position. I was thinking about it, I just can't figure it out. You know, like, you play rook takes a4, you're eliminating, like, a really, really dangerous pawn. I mean, that's an a pawn. It's coming down on an a8 queening square controlled by the bishop on g2. And you're taking it with tempo. So I think that move 11 had to have a hallucination here. You know, there had to be some kind of absolute hallucination with rook takes here. You've been confused by move 11 for like 5 minutes. It's the name of the guy. Man, that's it. Now you know. How could he not play rook takes a4 though? You know, that's what I don't get. Yes, it looks scary, absolutely, but you're up a piece. You know, it's okay. I'll be a little scared if I can be up a piece. Even if we have to give the piece back, it's okay. It's a draw. You know, in other words, like bishop takes here, rook d2, whatever you want. Bishop goes somewhere, and then you make a queen or whatever, and we what do? We draw somehow. Knight takes d8, rook takes d6, and shake hands, and it's equal, whatever. Okay, so rook takes a4, and instead he played rook b6. And now the problem is, I mean, there's not one, but two, but three. So no longer do we have a situation where we're up a piece. At this point, white actually literally has three pawns for a piece in an endgame. And the closer you get to the endgame, the more dangerous the pawns really become. So white had a number of strong moves here. Rook e1, like developing his final piece, looks really ominous. With threats of rook e7, rook e8. I would have probably lost this now too. Well, it's like +3 according to the computer, but he plays rook d4, blockading. It's a good move, and then bishop c6, which is apparently a mistake. Rook takes c6. This is like desperation. So can black do anything here? It's pretty hard to come up with a move. I mean, it's not clear. I guess a5 is a threat. Yeah, a5 looks pretty brutal. So I don't know, man. I think it's lost here. But it wasn't a simple game. And now he's just giving back material. Now it's like black has two pieces for a rook, but the pawns are just brutally strong. A5. This is just hopeless. Bishop E4, and white misses like the best moves, I think. Even this is good enough. I don't know. I would have taken on B8, I guess. This is pretty ugly though. Are we losing a piece there? Yeah, it doesn't matter. It's lost here. So I don't think there's anything he could have done. It was a far more complicated game than I expected when I first heard that he lost from a piece-up position. White played the opening horribly, and then came up with this sort of weird sacrifice with knight d5. But the two things that stick out on my mind is that probably move 11 missed a win with bishop takes f5. The second thing was that he probably missed a draw with rook takes a4. But the problem is psychologically, how do you go from like I'm up a piece, I'm probably winning, to I need to take that pawn and make a draw? It's very hard to kind of accept that you're not winning anymore and then change your entire mindset to now I'm just playing for a draw. And that's hard. I think he couldn't really make that. He couldn't really make that distinction, or make that transition from I'm winning to I'm just gonna now I'm just gonna play for a draw with rook takes a4, which it should have been. But white didn't really deserve to win the game. I mean, you could argue that he didn't play very well, though at the end he did. Calculated chess. Well, I don't know if it was great analysis, but the best I can do, with a short amount of time. Give me an hour and I can do a great analysis. Give me 15 minutes and we'll do the best we can. So I got Neil Swint also in the list here. Alright, so Asterbait is next. Do I got anybody else that jumped in there? Alright, so Asterbait. Since I enjoy getting the Czech Benoni scraps, this one is called an English opening symmetrical variation, anti-Benoni. Cool. Alright, what did we get here? Oh, something different. Alright, I'm just going to open it over here. Guys, if you enjoyed the stream, please support the stream. You can support the stream by subscribing, by making donations of bits, PayPal donations, whatever you can afford. I appreciate it. Thank you so much, guys. Also, check out my YouTube channel, Video Chess Training on YouTube. And finally, if you're interested in private lessons, I'm moving back to Budapest in 2 weeks. There's a good chance that I can probably take on another student or two in the next coming month. So if anybody's interested in taking lessons weekly or even bi-weekly, it's a good chance I can be available. Alright, so this is Asterbait. It's not a Czech Benoni. Czech Benoni is his favorite opening. We're taking a look at his side from black here. I feel bad for move 11, but it's hard to know exactly what was going through his mind at various stages. I have to talk to him personally and understand. There's a lot of pressure when you're playing for money. I've always done pretty well. He got like $50 or something, some kind of minimum prize, but I've done okay when it was like clutch situations. I actually play better when I'm in clutch situations. That was true in like school sports and stuff, but not everybody. And I think you have to get used to it too. If you're in the clutch situation more often, you're gonna perform better. So Asterbait plays c5, and this is a risky line because white can play d5. And Asterbait, you're gonna have to come up with something here. I can't believe this is an actual move. You've got to be kidding me. That's demented. I almost like clicked on that by accident. Okay, that is just demented. But anyway, b5. I would investigate that, Asterbait. If you find yourself, this is kind of like the main line. Of course, there's always like reverting back to g6 or e6, but b5 is the most aggressive move. It may be a little too much, but it's certainly interesting. Alright, so white doesn't take this best move. Yeah, it's like a Benko, but it's not, because white hasn't played c4. So c4, and now I recommend it to Asterbait, and I recommend to you guys this gambit line. C takes d4, knight takes d4, e5, knight b5, and d5. The idea is you don't get a backward pawn, you just sack a pawn and go bishop c5. This is an old gambit line. I think it was played by Kasparov over the years. It's actually been analyzed extensively, but it remains. I think it remains very, very dangerous. So I suggested this to Asterbait when I found out about that he was playing this type of position. All right. So instead of playing CD, he plays b6 here. And this is a bad move, because when you play b6 here, you're just giving white a good Benoni. So white should simply play d5. b6 literally like doesn't contribute anything to the black side of the standard kind of Benoni at this point, you know, and obviously b5's out because you're down a tempo. So this is just a bad position for black. Fortunately for Asterbate, a lot of people, you know, just are religiously against playing d5, even when it's like blatantly strong, like in this case. But instead, Asterbate, you need to play something else, okay? As I said, CD. So b6, he doesn't do d5. Now you actually back into like a normal line. Again, you should do CD. This was an Igor Foigl favorite. Now he takes d4 and bishop b7. I kind of like this line. There is an interesting gambit I saw once. I'm just thinking it was a slightly different position, but the idea of sacking a pawn with like e4, knight takes e4, I mean, we're not going to find any games here. Knight takes e4, bishop takes e4. Just throwing this out there, like bishop g5. Oh, is this remotely sound? What do you guys think? Sack a pawn? Just an idea. I've seen a similar position. Also, there was queen e2, apparently. There might be some interesting ways to sack a pawn, but it's all very speculative. So the main lines are like f3 and bishop g5. This is actually not a bad line for black, the aforementioned Igor Foigl. You see, the thing about b6 is that it inhibits those English players from playing g3 that they like myself and others who like to play g3. So it has that going for it. Anyways, there you go. So Asterbate played a6, and now the guy was like, all right, I've had enough, you know, I'm going to play d5, which is correct. And now, I don't know, you know, I would seriously consider playing b5 a tempo down here. But black's in a really bad way. I mean, if you play b5, I think even e4 is strong. I guess the point would be like e4, it's like a bad Blumenfeld. Even e5. This looks like a Blumenfeld line where black is like down a move off of some sort of main line. No development, kind of an ugly situation. Just not really good. Spectacular Camel just made a GIF. Oh no. That's awesome. That's awesome, Camel. That's great. Guys, check it out. The rolling pawn, though. S4, welcome back. Long time no see. Nice job, Spectacular Camel. Check out the Spectacular Camel GIF. You guys can feel safe to click on that Spectacular Camel link. He's a good guy, good friend of the stream here. So, S4, thanks for resubscribing and joining us. Yeah, but anyway, alright, what can Asterbate do? You know, he's in a bad situation. Plays d6, alright? e4, and now, okay, he plays e5. Alright, I accept this. White could take en passant, but it's probably not that strong. So, it's ugly. It's ugly, but black is not crushed. Bishop d3, bishop e7, castles, knight d7, looking for a lion's jaw, as they say here. And El Clasico. But it doesn't work. Okay, unfortunately, Asterbate can't play knight takes d5. Or Kenny. Kenny, no relation to South Park. Alright, what are we doing here? Is that knight trapped? Oh my goodness. Look at this. No, this can't be good. Just humor me for a second. I just want to check, you know. It might be mate. No, but it's too much material. We're just a clear down exchange here. Clear down exchange. Della Corta. Good to see you. Thanks for subscribing. Yeah, anyway, so this tactic with the thing doesn't work yet, but it might next move. Castles, and now you see white realizes there's this knight takes d5 trick, so he decides to play bishop takes f6. But do you know how bad this is? Like bishop takes f6 on a strategic level? That's white's good bishop. That's what I was talking about in Move 11's game. You got to have a concept. What is a good bishop? What is a bad bishop? Why is the good bishop important? Why is the bad bishop important? That's your good bishop. Look at this pawn on d3. Pawn, 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 pawn. Excuse me. Excuse me. Pawn, 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 pawn. You know? Well, you've got a remaining bishop like that. I mean, that's pretty ugly. You know, maybe it can crawl back into the game by bishop c2, bishop a4. When you have enough space, you can do that. But why is white trading his bishop off? Best move, hard to find. Bishop d2. You know, even bishop e3 is okay. What are you going to do? Knight g4, and then what? You know, what's your next move? So, no problem. You know, you're not going to play f5. So, this is just a really idiotic move by white. Like, bishop takes f6. Absolutely bad. Knight takes f6. And then he walks into a tactic, it looks like. So Asterbate didn't find it. He has various discoveries here. Asterbate, you gotta think about these discoveries. Knight takes e4, hitting the bishop, hitting the knight on h4. Excuse me. Asterbate's prone to missing these discovered threats. Even this move is good. I still don't see much compensation for white here. Maybe because white's d5 square is so powerful that, you know, he could have some drawing chances even though he's down a pawn here. It looks like a Sveshnikov. I don't want to be down a pawn, you know, and groveling for a draw. So, knight h4 is like a ridiculous move. Bishop g4. And then he's got various solutions here. I mean, bishop e2 is a good move. White plays f3. I think this is like deja vu. I saw the same thing earlier today. Spectacular Camel. Spectacular Camel, you and Asterbate should get together and compare notes. Because I swear, man, I'm having deja vu. I saw the same exact idea today. In the same exact type of opening. But if white just plays bishop e2, you're solving all of his strategic problems for him. Now, it turns out you still have the discovered tactic with knight takes e4. So, what is the list of games? We did Nefedov, move 11. This is Asterbate. Then I've got Soltigo and Nils. So you would be like after Nils if you submit a game s4. Alright, well, I mean, on the positive side, f3 defends the pawn on e4. But where is this knight going? He's going to have to play g3 and bring the knight back to g2 or knight f5. Bishop h5 is a weird move. Bad move by Asterbate. Keep the bishop here, Asterbate. This is a very strong position. It's looking both ways, okay? You want your bishops to function that they look both ways. With bishop h5, not only do you have a chance to get trapped, but you get driven back to g6 where you block your g6 pawn. The knight's on, you know, the bishop's on the side of the board. You're not protecting against f5. So this was a serious mistake. Bishop h5, knight f5, and now you're in an awkward situation. Like, how are you going to get rid of that? h6, this doesn't really help. You know, I would think at this point I'm probably playing like bishop g6 and trying to just trade that off if I can get it. And playing for a draw, opposite colored bishops. But h6, not really a move that helps black in any way. I don't know what this is about. To give your knight a square at h7 maybe? f3 is pinned though. That's true. White here just turns around and plays knight g3, which is a little bit odd. Here, you know, rather than knight g3, let's think for a moment here, you know. I mean, if you're going to put the knight anywhere, maybe this square, not to block your g-pawn from coming forward. But white will never be able to, complicated and boring, this is what this game is, but white will never be able to really be happy about his dark squares here. But why retreat the knight back voluntarily? Bishop g6, queen d2. And now Asterbate bringing the bad bishop to life. I think this game is gonna turn around. That's a huge change, man. Now you're like freedom. Alright, now he lost his mind again. So, I kind of like bishop g5, but maybe it doesn't do anything. What are we going to do? Not that easy, huh? Bishop g6, black can get clamped down with g4. The truth of the matter is that it's going to be hard for either side. It's so closed with so many pawns on board. 18 pawns. I mean 16 pawns. How many pawns? Ponda, how many pawns are there? 18 pawns. Are there 18 pawns? I don't remember. I just like, yeah.
How many pawns are there? Can somebody tell me? Okay. It starts with a 1, and
no, I'm a little bit. I've had a long day. I can't count, but the engine says b5. It's like a Benko kind of pawn sack. That's pretty hard to find, but it's interesting. Maybe you could do this, sack this pawn over here, get some ideas with a diagonal, and also get an f5. In other words, you know, you try to get an f5. I'm not fully convinced by this though. You know, white could probably shut it down, and it's gonna be a little hard to break it open. So it's still not easy, but Asterbate goes nuts with f5. The guy doesn't take the pawn. You know, some things sometimes you just have to be materialistic. The bishops are pawns here too, but yeah, that's right. There's 9 pawns. There are 18 pawns. Oh my god, I was right. It was subconscious. These are pawns too. Wait, no, no, wait, that's 18, 16, 17, 18. There's 19 pawns. I said 18. The knight is not a pawn. Alright, f5, crazy move. And black doesn't lose a pawn. Now f4, locking it up. Nah. No, I mean, you've got the bishop here, Asterbate. You should try to keep it open, not close it up. I think the guy with the knight wants to close it up. You know, f4 is not the right idea. You want to get pawn breaks. You want to get fluidity for the bishops here. This move's the wrong idea. Closed position when the other guy has a knight? Probably not. Now he goes b5. It's an interesting pawn sack, but no, you can't play a5. You can't play a5 and just give the guy a protected pass pawn on b5. You have to take back and live with yourself, your dubious pawn sacrifice. No, this is no good. Now you're like lost. Although you're lost, it's going to take wonderful technique probably by white, you know, to actually break it open because the position is so closed. Queen b6 here. I would seriously consider sacking a second pawn with c4 at this point. Am I out of my mind? Yeah, probably. In a practical game like a blitz game, you could consider it. Rook f6, he's got nothing. Black's got nothing. This is very awkward. He's just building up with pieces, nothing going. c4 sacking the pawn, but it's not a sack. He left his king on g1. Goodness. And that's a nice distractionary tool, the pawn on b3. So white just totally ignored the position of black queen there. He fell asleep with knight g4. So good try, Asterbate. And then got the file. So he's got a little bit of compensation. But trading queens is not a good idea. And not that there is a good idea here. You're very tangled up. The bishop h5 was really where you got yourself in trouble. You probably have to take that, you know, and take your chances now with this opposite colored bishop situation. I mean, I had a situation like this in the springtime against a little kid where I was down a pawn in opposite colored bishops, and he got scared, and I offered a draw, and he took it. Or it was a repetition of position, and he agreed to repetition of position. I mean, you're down a pawn, they get scared. It's like dynamic. Their pawns opposite colors, our bishops opposite colors. A lot of dynamism going on. I mean, the material doesn't matter that much here. It's whoever has the initiative. So you should go for that. Your bishop is not worth much here. Queen d4 is a huge mistake. Like, you don't want to trade queens when you're down material. So then the guy gets queen takes a5. Kind of greedy. Kind of greedy. Alright. Passive. And then you snipe the pawn. And suddenly it's not so easy. Wow. Just dropped a piece, going all in on this passed pawn. And suddenly life's not so clear. He has b7 here, but you're about to like checkmate him. White is suddenly in serious danger of getting checkmated. I mean, let's see if like b7. Dude, it's like Mamajarov. Bishop h3. Would Asterbate have found it? Oh man, this is perverse. Look at this. b8 queen. King anywhere. G takes h3. And now rook on g to g2. I'm loving this. The guy's sitting there with an extra queen. And you're threatening mate in 2. Oh, that's painful. That's painful. And he can't stop the mate. Rook d1, you know, you would assume. Wow. Rook takes h2. This is unbelievable. I mean, there is no direct mate. You have to find an insane move here. Wow, queen d7. So you can play like rook takes h2, and then rook h1 check, and then queen takes h3 check, and then mate. That is awesome. And white has no defense to that. I mean, that's like impossible. I would never have found that. Even in a slow game, I might not find that. He's up a queen, and he's just totally getting mated. So that actually didn't work. He was right, but Asterbate played this a different way. He played bishop takes f3. And he missed bishop h3. I mean, it's a very similar idea. It just doesn't quite work as well. Bishop takes f3, b8 queen, king h7. I'm glad you shared this game, though, Asterbate. He plays g takes f3. And I guess this is just as bad as the other way. Now we actually get a transposition to the same position. So white has to capture with the other rook. With the rook, excuse me. Either rook, you know. And he's not necessarily lost here. You have rook h3, right? This is unbelievable. Check this out. So it's still not clear. Queen d7. This is just analysis. Queen d3. And then like queen g4. I was looking at queen g4. But I guess we have no threat. HTFP would find it. Now rook b2 apparently. Okay, this is beyond me now. But Asterbate played the bishop takes f3. The guy transposed to the other line. So we get the same position as bishop h3 now. And it's over. This is even easier because he played rook c1. He needed rook d1. This was important to stop queen d4 check. But white didn't even see that. In that case, Asterbate, you have to find the super cool queen d7. This idea is absolutely pivotal. Like, if you don't find queen d7, you're probably not going to win the game. This funny retreating move. Asterbate says hope chess, but there's a little bit more to this. And now we have a simple mate. Okay, queen d4 check is the easiest now. Queen d4 check is made in a couple moves. Rook e3, king f1, mate. But here, okay, you're lucky that it's still mate. Rook f2 check here. King e1 here. And now queen d4. Now rook d3, and that's beautiful. Beautiful finish, Asterbate. But the game has a lot of... Stockfish is crying right now. Yeah, absolutely. It was a little painful to watch some stages of that game, but I think it was instructive for Asterbate and a lot of the players in the stream. Alright. Stockfish is very depressed. Yeah. Alright, guys. So, what time is it here? Started streaming at 4:30. We got an hour and 20 minutes left, so that's plenty of time. Hour and 20 minutes to work on the rest of these games. What do we got? So Soltigo and Nils. I don't know if I've ever won against... Well, I mean, I guess I won against two queens. I had a funny game once against Justin Sarkar, where when he was a young kid, he did this double bishop sacrifice against my Sicilian king side. Like, I had a standard Scheveningen king side, and Justin sacrificed one bishop on h7, one bishop on g7, and then flushed my king out, and I had to run away to not get mated. And then at the end, he had this pawn pushed up and queened it. So my king escaped. I didn't get mated. My king ran away to like e7, and he sacrificed two bishops, but then he got a queen back. He got a new queen promoted. And so we had this middle game that was insane. It was like, he's got two queens roaming around the board, and I've got two bishops and a pawn for the second queen or something like that. The game went on forever. It was insane. You know, he had to win the game like several times. I could supply another 15 games if necessary. No. No, I think we'll do a maximum of 10 today. Alright. So, we were on Soltigo. The choice is yours. I love choices. Okay, Sicilian Nightorf, Carol Khan 2 Knights attack, Morphy Gambit. What is Sicilian Morphy Gambit? I'm kind of wondering what that is. Sounds fun. Let's check it out. We'll do this one. Oh, it's actually a Nimzovich variation? Nice. Alright, that'll be interesting. We had a discussion with one of my students today about, oh, this is actually a Morphy Gambit. I didn't understand. I thought it was a Nimzovich. I just saw the early knight f6. But I was talking about what this a6, the O'Kelly, was one of my students, and another variation, the Nimzovich. Although Magnus crushed John Ludwig no, it was Grandelius very badly in this, like last year. It still remains an interesting sideline, I think, for black. You know, you want to get people out of book. Those are 2 good tries. So white plays d4, black plays cd, and now knight f3. I didn't know this was called the Morphy Gambit. In most cases, it just transposes, so it's not really any gambit. It's just a funny way of playing the normal open Sicilian. There is an interesting point here. Check the database, man and women, men and women. Queen a5 check is one of those moves that screams like I'm not right. This is not correct. This is like trying too hard to refute something with a crazy move. But this move, that may just be, you know, worth playing. Although I guess in any case, oftentimes we're going to end up, you know, we could get a good O'Kelly Sicilian here actually. I guess Fedoseyev or one of those guys would play like queen. Magnus would play queen takes d4 now. Judith Polgar play queen takes d4. What? Judith Polgar against Juzha Polgar. So knight takes d4 is the O'Kelly Sicilian when black play knight f6 or e5. That's actually an interesting idea then. So our conclusion here is that if someone plays this Morphy Gambit, a6 seems to be a very incisive move. What are white's options? You know, to play the Smith-Morra, that's no problem because a6 is a good move against the Smith-Morra. You just go like d takes c, knight takes c, knight c6, and then d6 will transpose. The only question that remains here would be this move. Which I kind of doubt. I mean, it's hard to believe that e5 would be a good move. The normal move is bishop c4 when we transpose to mainline, what I consider the main line of the Smith-Morra with d6. So, interesting learning experience. It looks like a6 is a nice move against this so-called move order. I think like one of the regulars on the stream, Bombist, actually used this move order against me, and I never really like cared. I always just like do whatever I'm gonna do anyway. I just play like knight c6. I never tried to like punish it, but in retrospect, it looks like a6 is really good. Let's see who did this move order. You know, Baklan, Hu Yifan, Artemiev, and Gary Kasparov. All right, I've seen enough. All right, I've seen enough. Yeah, this is like, you know, Kasparov chooses this move order. All right. That tells you something right there. William Morrison, it was a simul, played in 1997. Yeah. So, Kasparov chooses to play a6. He knows everything. Yeah, absolutely. Alright. So, that's beyond our hero here, Lake. Lake plays knight f6. This is not a bad move, you know, transposing to some kind of Nimzovich Sicilian here. e5, knight d5, and then c4, which is a wild move. Felikazi, Laszlo. It's funny, Felikazi is like a pianist. But, so It's like this guy who gives concerts in his house. Not the real. This is a different person, but the same name. Not a really common name. But c4 is a weird move by Soltigo. It's like his style of playing strange moves. You'd normally do c3 transposing the c3 Sicilian, queen takes d4, which looks like a normal Nimzovich line, or possibly knight takes d4, which is not common, but I guess okay for should be okay for white. So anyway, welcome everybody who's a subscriber. This is a stream just for you guys, especially for you guys, I should say. Please support the stream, and I want to just note that tomorrow's stream is Friday, 10 a.m. here. It's like a special Friday stream, 5+3. We're making the time in the morning so we can accommodate you European players like S4 and the others, Niels. So weird move c4. I never know where to put the knight in this kind of situation. It looks like black could have played knight b4. It's an unusual move, but it makes some sense here. There's a guy here, Okhotnik, and he's a Ukrainian, now grandmaster. He's only a grandmaster because he won the World Senior Championship. That sounds kind of mean. It may be my last hope. Both Larry Kaufman and Okhotnik, like lifetime IMs who got the GM title by somehow winning the World Senior and later in life. But Okhotnik is renowned for his like knowledge of like offbeat openings. Camel Culture, what's up? So interesting to see like knight b4 chosen here. This is probably an incisive move. I mean, he's coming back with this knight here, which is a plan that Shuba has talked about in dynamic chess strategy in a different position. So rather than the robotic retreat with knight c7, he could have played that. I mean, even knight b6, yeah, knight b6 is bad because of c5, so forget about that. Alright, so it's knight b4 or knight c7. Here, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like white should start playing this full-on gambit style now. You could play like bishop d3. I mean, if your pawn was back on c2, this is more like a Nimzovich French gambit, but alright, it's probably too much. Take the pawn back. Now there's going to be pressure on e5. So it seems like maybe better to play queen takes, lose the tempo, suck it up and play like queen e4. This transposing back into some kind of theory. I'm curious if this Belazarov guy is an over-the-board player or is he a correspondence player, because I've seen this game like twice. That was my Russian professor's name at Boston University. Professor Belazarov. I wonder if there's any relation. She was so nice to let me graduate because I really, really sucked in Russian language class. Alright. Anyways, Soltigo plays knight takes d4 and then g6. I mean, it seems better to play knight c6 here, maybe? To challenge the e5 pawn. But I guess g6 is okay. Here. And the Ponda has been summoned. Can we get that Ponda gif again?
I have been summoned by the h4. Huh. Fantastic moment for h4. Alright.
Yes.
Yes.
Well,
Yes.
That's my favorite one. Alright, the yes button. I have been using the yes and no buttons enough lately. But, yeah. Okay. This is a good move. h4. I like it. There's no stopping now, man. I can't believe you did f4. It feels like you should just go, brother. Go with h5. Why do we stop worrying about a silly central pawn like this? Just keep rolling. If it's a blitz game, I'm definitely playing h5. Don't give him a second chance to play like h5 or something. So he played f4. It's asking too much. Too many pawn moves, Soltigo. I guess you could also play something like queen e2. Another weird move on the Nefedov scale. Kind of nice, you know, opposite the black king. And if we're going to play in gambit style, why are we playing f4 here? Now black could have punished you by cracking your center with d6. Castles into it, as they say. And now h5. Now black desperately better break out. You see, you got the center and it's keeping you confined. The idea of hypermodern chess is to destroy the enemy center. Hello, are you there? The idea is to destroy the enemy center. Do it quickly before they kill you, you know. Therefore, d6 is necessary. Break up the center, destroy it. Yes, now, quickly, before this thing ends up in a disaster where you're getting mated down the h-file. Of course, h5 is natural. But instead, black was like, la-di-da-di-da, I do b6, I can just do whatever I want. I've got all day, you know, to just casually double fianchetto. And no, probably not. So b6 plays hg, this move's okay. Now black plays fg, and I don't know. You know, it turns out that he was right. I would have had no clue. Like, I would have had to have thought about this for a very long time. But there seems to be, like, one idea, of course, that queen f3, well, you know, actually that rook is protected by the knight there. Never mind. But the idea of getting to the h-file and just brute force checkmating black is pretty relevant. So, this happens a lot in the Peertz defense. Black isn't happy to take away from the center, but he actually has to take this way, you know, so he can play like h6 in an emergency, or h5, or what have you. Knight c3, bishop b7. This is given a question mark, but man, I mean, that's an awfully natural move. What do you want the guy to do? And now queen g4. And I have a bad feeling that something like bishop d3, rook takes h7 is on the way. You know, this is what I'm envisioning. Yeah, of course you could play queen h4 or queen h3, but it feels like it's the bishop d3 followed by rook takes h7 that's going to really hurt very soon. So knight c6. And, well, the knight is hanging, so I can't fault Soltigo for his move. Knight f3. I mean, knight f3 is a very logical move. You know, you're avoiding exchanges, you're moving toward that king when it looks like there's threats there. So it's hard to criticize this. Apparently he had better. Just this primitive, like knight takes c6 and like queen h3. I mean, then black can play and hang on, you know. So this wasn't easy to see. Not at all easy to see. Soltigo plays kind of natural moves. So he plays this. And black could have played like knight b4, which he did. Now Soltigo, strangely, took a timeout to move his king. But that seems a little odd to me. Okay, the best thing about knight b4 is that actually stops bishop d3. Because that was my golden plan, you know, to just sack the rook on h7. I mean, that would have been beautiful. So we can't play bishop d3. Yeah, it's kind of annoying. The best plan is like queen h3 or something lame. He plays king f2, which is a reasonable move, and then black trades this guy. It's a pity, but it does eliminate an attacking piece. G takes f, and now black needs to, you know, find something to defend himself. It looks like, well, if nothing else, white can just keep developing. I mean, even a3, move the rook, and then bishop d3 is going to be very strong. With the aforementioned rook sacrifice on h7, knight e6. This move, and now knight c2. So black's hanging on. The computer is actually looking at this. Maybe Alpha Zero could make this work, but it looks a little generous. Yeah, he played bishop d3 here. Unfortunately, black has knight takes e3 followed by like takes on f4 before white has time to add to like land any kind of crushing blow. The computer likes knight d5, guaranteeing security for the f4 pawn, and then you can continue with your plan. We'll recapture with the king on e3. I love this. This is totally Soltigo-esque. King takes, and then we just bring the bishop to d3 and annihilate black. Is black's counterplay fast enough? Probably not. So you missed another key move. He always gets a winning position, then he misses some slip because the position is so demanding. That's the problem for Soltigo and players like S4 who play crazy wild positions. The downside is that you're putting yourself in a position where it requires extremely precise tactical calculation. And once in a while, Soltigo gets these winning positions, but he can't execute. It's just too hard to continue to find, like, only move, only move, only move. You're putting the onus on yourself, you know, and guys who just don't really think but just make the first move they find can beat you sometimes, because it's just... Black is only making only moves. You know, anybody can make only moves and survive. So king takes, and then rook takes f4. And that's hitting the queen, unfortunately. I mean, I was expecting knight takes, because that's another defense. That guards g6. Guarding g6 is a good idea. Now, surprisingly, like, check this line out. Rook takes h7, king takes h7, rook h1 check, king g8. Yeah, I don't see anything here for white. But maybe there's some hope. Bishop takes g6. Knight takes g6, queen takes g6, and there's no more ammunition. Yeah, looks like it's not enough. Queen e8 is a perpetual, at least. But rook f7 would win. Okay, in a blitz game, anything can happen. But black played rook takes, which is natural, because it's a tempo on the queen. The queen now attacks, and then black plays a bailing out with king f8 move. King f8, queen takes h7. Now obviously there is like rook takes f3 check, but white doesn't have to take it. Knight g5 to follow. This is the game. Don't have to take it, man. Suddenly white is winning. Material is almost equal. White is just a pawn down, and he has an initiative. So that's funny. It's all about king safety. Knight f4, and then rook a f1. Looked like a good move to me. Wasn't the computer's choice, but I like it. Drop a piece temporarily. We get it back. King c2, and the black king is just stretched beyond even the reasonable probability of defending here. Rook takes. Yeah, this is good. I was surprised by this. I actually thought maybe even queen takes g6 could be played. I mean, how is he defending after queen takes g6, rook d2 check, king b1? I guess there's like bishop e5 or something. Apparently queen h8 is curtains. This is also good. And now it's just no safety for the black king. Yeah, this is good enough. I don't think you missed. You missed mate in 55 apparently. Nice. So Soltigo did not lose on time or something crazy. I was concerned. Now it's mate. Nice job, man. So guys, we've got 1 hour left in the stream. That's time for at least 4 games or so of analysis. So let's keep it going on. International Master William Paschall, welcome to my stream, guys. Spectacular Camel, S4. And you guys have an interesting game you'd like to share. Some of the subscribers who joined the stream here at the last minute. You guys are the last ones here. Calculated Chess as well. If you guys would like to submit a game, there's still time. Alright, I've got Nils Swint. Invited me to his study here. Should have time for 4 more games. So this is actually... played, I guess this is an overboard game. Yeah. Chess Patzer Wales. Potzer or Patzer. Tomatoes. How do you prefer? Patzer or Potzer? Alright, so it's Nils is white. Tournament game, I presume. d4, d5, c4, e6, knight c3, knight f6. And now the exchange variation of the Queen's Gambit. I mean, one problem is that if black is feeling really wimpy, he can play knight takes d5 here. I think, that's a really good case for playing bishop g5 first. Of course, you have to change your, then again, even here, if black plays bishop e7, you're doing CD, they can still do knight takes d5. Yeah, you really can't avoid those knight takes d5 lines. If black wants to really play for a draw, he can try to play that. I guess you can't avoid it, so I did give up playing the exchange variation myself long ago. This is 90-30, standard over the board, time control. And then black plays ED. So, okay, bishop g5. Bishop f4 is another line, but bishop g5 is the main line. c6. Now, I've talked quite a bit about this. Strange move here suggested by the engine knight on bd7. I never really thought about that. Never actually occurred to me, this concept of playing knight bd7 in this move order. That's something you would get out of a Cambridge Springs move order. But I'm not sure if it's good or not. I have talked a lot about like bishop e7 though, and delaying c6. This is what Matthew Sadler recommended in an old book on the Queen's Gambit from Black's perspective. Delaying c6 for Black, giving him the ability to play c5 in one go, in some variations further down the line. There's an argument for that. In any case, I mean, I guess bishop e7 is a much more typical move. Usually c6 would be played like a move later. But is there any way white can actually exploit this c6? I guess white can play badly here by playing like knight f3 and allowing bishop f5. Yeah, this is lame. Then queen b3 and queen b6, and this is actually a semi-Slav move order, where black is supposed to be like, you know, really fine. So c6 could try to trick white into doing that, I guess. So Niels played e3. Queen c2 is a good move. That's also quite incisive. I don't know about that though. Is there some weird move like knight a6 here for reals? Maybe this is actually... I don't know what the status of this is. We've got Ivanchuk versus Kasparov. Kasparov-Ivanchuk. I don't know where the standing of this is theoretically. Something to think about. Okay, so like e3 is the main move. Queen, let's see, bishop f5, what is that, Kramnik? Oh, this is Carlsen Kramnik. You know, some problems may exist there. If you guys know the Carlsen Kramnik game, it was really pretty serious, you know. I guess, yeah, the knight bd7, knight takes d5 is a trap. Most people know that. But, you know, this variation, the status of this, it's still up in the air. It was very disturbing to see Kramnik lose this game 2 years ago. This variation is supposed to be like rock solid for black. Like, for the last 20 years, all the books were like, oh no, this is no problem. I remember seeing a game in the New York Open, like, literally 20 years ago, and they're like, oh no, black's fine. There's nothing for white here. And then Carlsen beats Kramnik in this weird ending, allowing the doubled pawns. I mean, it's never something I wanted to do with black, but, you know, it's funny how so many people trusted this position is okay for black. It ends up being really tricky, you know, whether or not this is okay for black. So he anyway plays bishop b7, bishop d3, and now knight bd7, queen c2, and then h6. Dude, my teammate plays this. I'm like losing my mind. I hate h6. I just don't understand what this does. They want to play like knight h5, I guess, in some positions, but I just fail to understand like how this move helps black in these type of lines. You whispered me a game. It's best if you send me the game over on lichess. If you can send it on ChessPats, or if you can send it on lichess, it's better. I mean, I can copy and paste it, but it's easier. So I don't like h6. It looks like Carlsen played that once, but why not just stick to the normal lines here for black? I don't know. Even knight h5, what is this, Nigel Short? This is a Nigel Short system with a knight h5. Even that's okay. My opponent was a girl, by the way. Well, I don't think it matters, but we get some background information. You're always playing females. Wasn't your last game a female? So queen c2, h6, bishop h4, and then knight h5. Yeah, I have this teammate that does this without doing knight h5, and it's just like h6 just becomes like a ridiculous weakness. So this is the point, you know, to trade pieces, and you're saying that h6 is somehow a useful move for black, so that, you know, it's not hanging at the end of the day here. Okay, I don't know too much about this from either side. Knight b6 appears to be theory, and then white castle short. So, I mean, clearly you had the ability to castle either way here. I'm just really thinking about this position critically for the first time. h3. h3 is one of those waiting moves that could enable you to kind of make black wonder which way you're going to castle. Oh, referring to your opponent as not a he. We'll be correct about it. So, see, that's what's the good thing about Hungarian. The Hungarian language, like, you don't really refer to people as he and she. Makes things much easier. But Hungarians get confused. They can't understand, like, to remember to say he and she. It's really funny. Yeah. Okay, so she knows the theory. h3 looks interesting. You kind of toy around with like, delaying castling. Okay, you just castled. It's the safest approach. What's our plan, though? I mean, we have a minority attack on the queen side. The problem is if we give up the c4 square, you know, we play for b4 and we give up the c4 square, we might regret it. So let's see. You know the theory here. The thing is, we've got what Max Uwe calls the pawn preponderance and the central pawn preponderance. There's a really good middle game series called The Middle Game by Kramer and Uwe. I guess Kramer did most of the books, but Uwe got his name on it to publicize it, and he was a world champion, one of the least well-known, you know, world champions, the Dutch grandmaster. But I think that this move is a typical situation where we're going to use the central pawn preponderance with f4, you know, f3, e4, and then we're going to play rook on a, e1, and leave this rook on f1 to support f3. Presumably, that's the plan. Now, I don't know how this works exactly. You know, how do we keep, like, the e3 pawn protected or whatever? But that's what I would imagine would go down. But it looks like, okay, rook f e1 isn't quite as good because we don't have that rook supporting, like, f3 recapture and then, like, the f file for white. Great. Message on lichess. Queen g5, very primitive. Somewhat logical, though. Here I was kind of scared of playing b4. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, I'm just not that convinced about this minority attack on the queen side. If this is coming into c4, it may be a problem. You know, I mean, we really aren't going very, very fast with that queen side minority attack. I just don't think that that's really the plan. You know, I think that here you look and you see, and I'm not surprised. Okay, there are some people who played rook a, b1. You know, even Lako. Okay, you're going to play for b4, b5. If you want to play the minority attack, that seems like what you ought to do here. But you played this move. I'm not really sure what your plan is with that. I mean, it seems like the other rook goes to b1 or goes to e1. With rook fe1, I mean, I'm not sure what we're doing. Are we playing for e4? Because it's possible to play for e4, but I think you're going to, like, just blow open the position, and you're going to be lucky if you're not worse. Because you're just going to have a worse pawn structure. Maybe you'll be open, your pieces will be open enough that it's like approximately equal. Here black played like bishop e6 in one game, but I mean, that move doesn't seem great. I wonder what black should do here. I mean, her suggestion of queen g5, not such a stupid idea. The thing is, she's not really threatening bishop h3. You know, that's the problem. So you're not threatening anything, she's not threatening anything. You know, I don't even know what's going on here. It is difficult to play for both sides. I mean, black would really like to play f5, f4 and execute her minority attack, but needs to be a little better developed, you know, so maybe she should just play like bishop d7 and swing it over, you know, rook a, e8. and then the knight can bounce back through c8 and d6 and head toward the king side. b4, all right. For lack of a better plan, see, she goes right into c4. What did you do? You went with b5, all right. Now you got to watch out for sacrifices already with like knight takes g3, excuse me, e3. Probably nothing. You know, but in tandem with bishop h3, she might start to have some tactical threats. Okay, now you play knight f4. This move strikes me as kind of random. Is there a threat at this point? Because if there's not a threat, then I don't see any reason not to just take on c6 and try to make, you know, progress with the plan on the queen side. The engine wants to take on c4, but that's quite a committal move. I mean, you're giving up a very strong bishop. I'd really rather not do that if I were white, you know, so I don't know what to do. Like, b takes c, okay, does she have a sack or something? I mean, there's no sacrifices here, come on. Knight takes e3, I mean, this isn't for real, is it? Can't do this. So I think you should just make the exchange, and then even, okay, you can't play rook b1 because that annoying fork. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, black gets the initiative on the king side. This is one of the reasons why I quit playing the exchange variation, because I'm not fond of being attacked on my king side. But it looks like you're supposed to take here. And then I guess it's just like a gets rid of an annoying piece. You know, at the end of the day, you simplify the situation. You have a better pawn structure. She has some limited attacking chances, but your pawn, you know, your pawn island is very strong, and her pawns are kind of messed up. So I'm not sure exactly what the plan is, but those pawns do a pretty good job of protecting your king. In the meantime, you can try to maybe pick off the c pawn. The back rank tactics, knight f4, yeah. Okay, it's a kind of hope chess thing. I mean, it doesn't really threaten anything. You know, you're just like, yeah, if she takes, yeah, good. So I guess she has any number of moves. I mean, she could go back with knight f6. Like, is there a problem with this move? I see nothing wrong with that. But your knight is strong there on f4, so maybe she shouldn't do that. She should just go with the bishop somewhere. Bishop d7. Probably a reasonable answer. So it turns out knight f4 is not so bad. Bishop g4 takes here. B takes c6, b takes c6, and the computer wants to play a very difficult move, knight e2. Okay, I mean, as you can see, there is no real plan attached to knight f4. The only thing about knight f4 is that it's on a good square. But can you maintain it? And you have to find this kind of difficult plan to maintain some sort of advantage. It's like bc, bc, knight e2. And you're threatening to win this pawn here on c4. But I think, meanwhile, the game remains very complicated. Like, she could play bishop f3. It's a little bit scary. I don't know. It's easy to play for either side. It's a pretty strange position. She plays this. You take, and then, okay. You know, as the position simplifies now, though, you missed this. That's okay. You got bishop f1. Right? Now rook e6. Anybody? s4. Here. King h1. It's like you're playing Nesbedinov or something. So she literally hung a piece here. In a really interesting position. Just pretend you're playing Nesbedinov. Okay, let's say like bishop h5. As is the case in these Queen's Gambit exchange variations where black tries to attack on the king side, usually the problem is just this, that like black, it's not like a King's Indian where he's bringing all these pieces to the king side, or she. Black doesn't have that many pieces left to attack with, you know, so this kind of thing where you're doing f5, f4, you're trying to lift a rook and attack or whatever. I mean, usually there's just not that much ammunition. I said this like last week. There's just not that much ammunition to really bring into the attack, and that's the limiting factor. But she just hung a piece here. So it was a good game, I mean, until that point, and now, like, right there, just to play knight a3, like, what is that? Like, what kind of move is this? Knight a3. This is crazy, you know? Like, what does that even do? That's a pity. So, what can you say? The position is interesting. Yeah, the position is interesting. Let's say rook b8. Okay, she activates her last piece. I mean, but why does she have to sacrifice a piece at all? I'm not really getting that, actually. You're suggesting rook a b8. Okay, let's take. Rook b2 is really, really strong, huh? This is fascinating. Queen c1, rook takes f2, knight d1. And black's starting to get some play. Rook takes h2, king takes h2, queen h4 check, king here. Is this really enough? And you take the rook. So it's like 2 pawns for a piece. Yeah, pretty vague. But I don't think black needs to do that. You know, I mean, that's interesting and all, but I would just make some kind of normal move, you know? I mean, just retreat the bishop back. What's the deal? Oh, it's still a game. Just still a game. Yeah, it's interesting. Black is slightly worse, I guess, structurally, which is what we were planning on. All right, but interesting, you know. I think that the rook move is an instructive mistake, you know, here. Because it's not clear what your plan is with rook fe1. You just have to decide one or the other. Like, you're either playing for the minority attack, you're playing b4, or you're going for the central preponderance with this expansion type of plan. I just don't know how white actually. Let's see how white like executes this typically. King h1. That's only one game though, where king h1 was played. Okay, well, I mean, there are only so many games here. Navara Adams from 2015. Let's see. Rook e8. He didn't play that either, though. Landa and Smagin did. No, let's check this out. It's Vizhmanovin versus Smagin from 1995. Or did he play like knight c1? Vizhmanovin was a very, very strong player. He died very suddenly in his like 30s. He was a really promising talent. He wasn't that young, but he wasn't that old either. So the idea is knight c1, and then you're securing e3 and supporting like f3 and e4, I guess. But it, you know, obviously, admittedly, it is a little weird to play knight c1. I mean, is there any other way to support e4? Apparently knight d1. I guess I almost like that better. Some unknown guy played this against Landa. And Landa's quite a good player. 4 interlocking things that got lost. So you don't play for the exchange variation because black has good chances to be solid with knight takes d5. But if you get the exchange, you said you didn't like the getting attacked. But if you can somehow survive it, it's a brittle attack without a lot of ammo. Yeah, something like that. That's a good summary. Let's see what happened here with Landa. Bishop d7, f3, rook a c8, and then the guy played g4. So he was scared. Landa's right. I mean, he's playing for c5 now. So it looks like whichever way you go, you know, if you go here to try to support, it's like Nigel Short playing the closed Sicilian suddenly. Well, it's not like you forced an advantage. I mean, it seems like it's okay. Either way white goes, it looks like there's some problems. Wow. Dude, check out Stockfish. It plays knight b1. Is that insane or what? That's the ultimate knight retreat. Not knight c1, not knight d1, but knight b1. Heading for d2. It doesn't even protect the e3 pawn. This is just insane. Alright guys, let's move on. So, Testosterone was up. No, S4. We're going to get to a couple more games. S4 in order and Testosterone. Chesty. So S4, this is Italian game 2 knights defense. S4 is a very balanced game. That's something we don't see from him very often. Beetroot. I'm not going to try to explain the exchange variation. Just, you know, those are my insights. But, yeah, not so easy. So, Bert route against S4. What do we got here? D4, sorry, E45, knight F3, and now knight C6. S4 is our subscriber. He's a very enterprising and dynamic player. He likes to play romantically with attack and a lot of creative stuff. But S4, did I hear somewhere that you played the Traxler variation? That would be more your style, wouldn't it? To play bishop c5. Why don't you play this? This has got to be like one of the coolest openings in chess. I don't know anything about this. I mean, I've seen a game here and there, but I always thought it was really pretty fascinating. I mean, I guess the theory is pretty well worked out with the computers nowadays, so I don't even know if this is sound, you know. Can the computer see over the horizon? What's the question there? I don't know. What's the, not question, what's the final analysis? Oh no. You can also play, thanks for subscribing, Chesspatzer Wales. You can also play the, what's it called? What is this, the Ursa variation? This is called the Fritz variation. There's also B5. Ulvestad. I was Ursa. That's Soltigo's Petrov thing. Ulvestad variation. So B5. There's B5. There's knight D4. All these interesting lines. But okay. So Soltigo. Excuse me. S4 plays knight takes D5. He's allowing the he's allowing the fried liver attack. This is probably losing by force. But we won't know until Alpha Zero gets done with figuring out chess. So D4. Now who is your opponent here? It's a guy 2024 7. Kind of weird account. What's that about? He's only 1800. He plays D4. I mean, really? Chesspatzer Wales was like, weirdly, the game I sent you was against Bert Trout too. That is pretty weird. You guys are sure this is just a coincidence? It's a streamer. So the guy plays D4. Why not play knight takes F7? Like, can somebody explain this to me? What am I missing here? I mean, isn't this just horrible for black? Like, king F7, queen F3, king E6. Do you really want to do this? Knight C3? I mean, I thought this was like almost refuted. Shouldn't you be able to work this out to like a forced win for white? Seriously, it's not? I mean, this like has to be, man, the engine is coming up with a novelty here. Queen E4. I mean, are you going to play knight E7? This is Zigalko versus Agderstein. Agderstein, I hope that's like a rapid game. I thought it was worked out to be holding. I don't think so, man. I mean, I think it just like loses, you know. But again, I'm not an expert. I mean, this looks pretty horrible, dude. It looks like bishop E3. Okay, let's see. Bishop E3, C6. These are... What are these? Computer games? These must be like correspondence games, what I'm trying to say. A3. Let's see what the correspondence game has to say. But I mean, at the very least, it's like just... Man. I don't know. Knight A6, let's see. So apparently now D4. Whoa. I mean, nobody in their right mind would like go into this in like a tournament situation. Looks like this is not so clear after King D7. You try to walk away. Okay, there's so much to study, but I mean, basically, I always assumed like everybody who ever gets the chance to play knight takes f7 plays it. You know, this guy doesn't. He plays d4. Okay, he likes d4. I guess that's a good move too. So s4 just plays e takes d4. Now I guess you could even do knight takes f7 here, but then queen e7 check wins a piece. Never mind. Does it? Well, I mean, knight takes f7, queen e7 check. You know, you got to play queen e2, and then it just doesn't look very good. Here, if we did this move now, yeah, this kind of messes it up. You know, that's not good. It's too late for knight takes f7. But apparently queen f3 was played in the game. Obviously castles looks totally natural. I mean, man, if there's not correspondence games in this position, I'll eat my hat, you know. I'm afraid that the lichess database doesn't have a lot of correspondence games. By the way, it's very expensive, but you can buy like the complete correspondence database from like ChessBase and stuff. Probably a really good investment if you are really serious about your opening preparation. I know the top grandmasters are heavily into studying all the correspondence games. Probably like absolutely a necessity if you want to be super well prepared to have correspondence chess database. But I'm shocked that there's no games with castles here, because that move just feels right on position. Okay, there are 2 games. These actually look like over the board games, but they're really low rated guys, relatively speaking. Alright, so you played ED, he plays this, and yeah, it doesn't work. This is just a mistake. But I mean, anybody who's like capable should see that. I mean, the queen e7 was the first thing. Yeah, now you're just going to trade queens, and the trade of queens is going to make black okay. I guess you could have played it differently there, but this is nice and simple. You know, now, yeah, just bishop e6. This is fine. And this is a beautiful thing. For s4 to be playing an ending, without tactics, really, you know, just like the slightly better endgame is going to be kind of cool. So bishop f4. Can we just sacrifice that pawn on c7? Yeah. s4 an excellent player when it comes to the initiative. This was the top move of Stockfish. No. I mean, I've been heading for d5 all along because it's centralized. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty. This to me is more like aesthetic, you know. 2300, very low rated. For terms of, actually, Neil Swint, in terms of opening theory, it is fairly low rated. I really don't trust games unless the players are at least like 2400 and above, to be honest with you. That doesn't mean the games aren't necessarily important, but, you know, just kind of as a cutoff. The quality is usually lower, but nowadays it matters less. More players are stronger and stronger in the opening. So now king f3, giving black interesting possibilities with g5, but g4 check is coming. That will keep black at bay. So this is where s4 shows off his creativity. Sacrificing a pawn to create dynamic imbalance, and then like knight d4. Asteroid is like lower than 1000 and you get me. So yeah, this is the kind of move that messes people up. I like g4, forcing him back, and now White has to decide what to do. c3, allowing that dangerous pawn to remain. It may be a big mistake. So this is one of those situations where you just have to bite the bullet and let your structure get destroyed. It's just, you know, the lesser of the evils. He plays c3, and that pawn is like actually really hard to attack. I don't like the fact that you can get down on the 7th with rook e2. That move immediately, perhaps not that strong, because White could challenge it with like rook e1. So he goes bishop c5, just developing. And it is looking hard to make progress now. Was there a better move than bishop c5? I guess the truth is, yeah, we didn't have anything really better. Here's a hard move to find, bishop d6. To strengthen the idea of rook e2, I guess. But even this I'm not really buying. What if white just plays... Okay, now you're threatening rook f8, actually. So most people would take, and then the idea would be that you can try to get the rook on the 7th. And also the white king is vulnerable on the f file. But it's still not easy. It's still not easy at all. Really good creative try. c3 is still holding. This is still holding. This is still holding. And you just traded rooks, but why? I don't think that s4 should release the tension here, but he had a reasoning behind it. He wanted to play h5, I guess. Which is a reasonable move. h3. It looks about equal now. Rook f8. Move the king. But he doesn't. He played knight e4. Wow, suddenly like white is better. Knight e5 check. King g3. And black's in an awkward situation. He found d2. What is like white's center-pawn loss here? Finally a blunder. I mean, if he had played rook there, man, that is... This is looking like you're just down a pawn for nothing now. Knight d3, rook takes d2. That's impossible to find that, though. What would have to be a computer? So, that's just ridiculous. He'd never find that. d2, he just takes it, and then rook f3 check. Yeah, alright. Now you have some play. Your pieces are active, you're down a pawn, but it's not so bad. Bishop e3, bishop takes e3, takes e3, rook takes e3. And you got lucky. You're actually... Is this even the right capture? Can we go to knight c4? No. Got to take the pawn with tempo. King f3. So this should be a draw, obviously. King e2. Computer thinks that black is better, but come on. I mean, this is symmetrical. This has got to be a draw. I mean, you do have the outside pawn. All right. I mean, I guess this is not that clear. Yeah, it's not symmetrical. I mean, this pawn is actually quite strong. Chesspatzer Wales, thank you for donating 111 bits. We've got Chesspatzer Wales game in the list here. We've got enough time to do. We did Soltigo already. We did S4. We're doing S4. So who did I miss? Testosterone and Chesspatzer Wales. Yeah, actually, this is weird. So your outside pawn. You're still better. This was insane, though. I mean, sacrificing the pawn on there. That wasn't necessary. I wonder why S4 did this. He didn't play just B6, you know? I mean, come on. You're good to go here. You got the outside pawn. There's no reason to sack your B7 pawn. You're just better. Yeah. I guess time situation merited taking a risk here. Knight c5 here, b4, king g4, knight here. Was it winning? It looks like he had to find some very precise move to save the game. King f1, blockading. I mean, it looks insanely passive. King f1, king g4, king g2. And then like knight c4. I mean, this looks really scary. King f1, king g4, king g2, and then knight c4. Forking pawns. e4, knight e3 check. King g1. But I guess at the end of the day, it's going to be hard to organize, like mating him. So somehow he survives. But he, you know, it wasn't easy to find that king f1 move. He plays this, and it's too slow. Looks like here he had knight e6 with the idea of knight f4, saving the game well. But he didn't find it. He played knight e4. Actually, this is good. So he has to sack a piece. There. He has to sack a piece here, desperately, like last chance, to try to draw. But it's clearly, you know, not really enough. I mean, see c4, knight takes c4, king up, knight e5 check. I mean, can we somehow save this? This could be like a practical try. You know, there's not a lot of pawns left. This actually is funny. This could be like a good way to save the game. Maybe it's not so easy, you know. The c-pawn drops, it's like a dead draw. This is actually a draw. It says unknown, but I'm sure that this is a draw. So you'd have to be like super precise if he did that, believe it or not. And he doesn't sack the piece there. Played a4. Now he just can't stop it, so it's over. Man, that's sad. Sad. I mean, really, like that last move, sacking on g3, he thought it was like hopeless. He probably didn't see he can do c4. But check out this move. Like, you're 2 pawns down, and now your only way to save the game is to be like, well, you know, I mean, you have 2 pawns for the piece. Your only way to save the game is to have just 1 pawn for the piece. Maybe black can play king g4. c5, king f5. And then what does white do? King d2, b5, king d2. It's probably a win. You have to play it precisely. Here, king c3. King takes e3, b5. Just hypothetically, let's see. Is this so easy? Like knight d7, king c4, king e4, a4. Are you sure this is a win? Ladies and gentlemen, here, check, here, king here, and then you're walking in. Looks like white wins. White loses by like a tempo here. King a5, and still you'd have to play like perfectly. Knight d7, king a6, knight takes c5, king takes a7, and it's like, man, just by the tiniest margin, black is winning. All right, man, good game, good game. Kind of lucky, but you put pressure on him. This was the last game. Let's see, Testosterone in Wales. All right, Starger. Starger. I don't know if Starger is a subscriber. Is Starger a subscriber? Can you guys clarify that? I've got 20 minutes left to do the last couple games here, so please clarify if Starger is actually a subscriber or just a regular viewer to the stream. All right, I'm gonna do Testosterone. He's next. Curious to hear my analysis of the game we played yesterday. Let's see it. So, Testosterone is black. We see the graph here. Alright guys, we only have 20 minutes left, so we got 10 minutes for these games. d4, g6. We played a lot of games with Testosterone with white against his modern defense. I'm usually playing e4. So he plays d6, going into a King's Indian type of modern. I played a lot of Gingy Indian stuff with c5. That's another story. This is fine. You know, h3 is a move that you see in like classical King's Indian, but this is kind of a strange move to play against such a flexible setup as black has here. I guess it's okay, you know. There's nothing dramatically wrong with h3. Normally when you see h3, he's got 2 possible continuations, like g3 and play a kind of fianchetto, or e4, going back into a classical. Those along with maybe a London system type of thing with bishop f4. But when you've got the d6, bishop g7 modern setup, I don't think bishop f4 is really that good, because you're going to play e5. The computer gives you a dubious for knight d7, but that's fine. You know, I think it's a fine move, whatever. You know, I don't care what Stockfish says. Knight f3. But the thing is, now you're basically transposing into a standard King's Indian. You know, if you want to play anything other than a standard King's Indian, you're going to need to come up with a different move here. I guess you could play maybe like a6 or c6 or e5. So now we're just going to get transposed. He played bishop g5. Now, if I'm going to play something here, I probably would play like bishop f4 at this point. This is a setup that you would see fairly often, a kind of relative of the Smyslov system. But I mean, h3 doesn't make a lot of sense with bishop g5. h3 makes some sense with bishop f4. I think that's the only valid thing here. The best move for white is to transpose to a classical Makhaganov system, and whether knight bd7 is a great line against the Makhaganov, you know, is up in the air. But bishop g5, I think, you know, is kind of weird. I play this position myself, but I wouldn't play h3 for any particular reason with this formation with white. All right, so c5. I don't really like this. Zapata played a game. He's a great player, but he's much stronger with white than with black. I don't like c5 with a knight on d7 very much, to be honest. So feels like you should probably play a more standard kind of e5 type of thing. h6, bishop h4, and e5. In fact, if h6, excuse me, bishop h6, it's 1 minute chess. Maybe he should go bishop f4. And we actually have a game here. This guy's very strong. I don't know how you pronounce it. It's Igor Lisiv against Beat Zucker from 2012, the old Swiss grandmaster. I mean, this actually forces him to go back to the correct square on f4, the better square. So maybe black should just play like e5 and be done with it. Karsten Volke, a very old game. The other option you have here, which is interesting, Chesstosterone, is to go into a kind of c6, a6 type of formation. c6, and then try to play like a6 and b5 on the queen side. I think this is probably a reasonable idea. If a4, then you play a5, and you fix the pawns on the queen side. So that would be my recommendation. Alright, so we have instead like c5. I don't really like this. It looks like a bad Benoni. So d5. Yeah. Just seems like a bad Benoni for black. I guess it's not that horrible. Queen a5. Now bishop d2. Yeah, fine. I mean, I like knight d2 better. This is what I would play typically. So bishop d2 is kind of weird. Now you move again. This is a very bad square for your queen, though. Your queen has no business there. You know, probably the truth is you shouldn't play queen a5. I mean, it's just not really appropriate. Zapata just castled. I mean, okay. This is the best he can do here. So queen a5 is weird. He plays bishop d2. You can just ignore it, you know. But putting your queen here doesn't solve any problems. It actually misplaces the queen. Now you might be vulnerable to like even b4 at some point. Here. a3 is good. Queen c7. You see, you lost the tempo. At least you admitted your mistake. Now this move, not particularly useful. I mean, this is more important to play e4 for white, I think. Queen c1 was kind of weird. And now what? Yeah, knight e5. I think you should just play e5 here. What would Asterbate play? You know? Just play e5, probably. But you could also consider, okay, you play queen c7, he plays queen c1. Now, if his plan is to play bishop h6, you should play e5. You know, if e5, now he's not going to play bishop h6 anymore. I did that once against Vadim Milov, and like I was like, wait, why did I play bishop h6? So, yeah, I mean, e6 is okay, probably. This is the closest thing to a normal Benoni you're going to get. It's probably not that bad, actually. e6 is okay. Queen c1 was weird. You know, he justified your position. But this is a bad move. You know, now your structure's all kind of bizarre. It's not that bad, but I'm afraid of b4 and your structure kind of melting down. Yeah, this is a poor move. I mean, once there's a pawn on e5, the black bishop becomes bad, so you don't really want to play bishop h6. Okay, here. There's the bad bishop. How many times have we seen this today? White having a bad bishop. e6. e6 is committal. It's not your only plan. Excuse me, guys. Let me get back here. Kind of a long game, though, looks like. Let me get back to d takes e5. So instead of e6, you might want to consider just setting up a blockading type of position with knight 98, knight d6, and trying to hold. The knight is very well placed on d6. It supports b5. It pressures the center. It supports f5. I think this is okay, you know, as an alternative. E6. Bishop b2 is a smart move, and then, you know, he's just taking back here with the c pawn. Took with the knight. Taking with the knight is kind of weird. It doesn't help him. You know, he has a very, very small advantage after that. Knight takes d5, and then now he takes this way. Why take this way? And I think it makes more sense to take this way, because now your c5 pawn is weak. To me, that makes far more sense. cd to put pressure on the c pawn. Okay, cd, but he plays ed. White's still better. He has protected passed pawn on d5. It's a small advantage. Here, I don't know. It's chasing his rook back, but it's an artificial position where the bishop can be attacked. Here, and then I don't know what you're doing. It's like playing for tactics. But I mean, I guess it's okay, but it feels like you're playing on his stronger side. Your strength is really your kingside majority. But I guess if you can put pressure on b2, you'll justify this. Maybe it's good. b5, b3, here, here, here. You need counterplay. You don't want to be passive here. And I don't like your structure. Rook e8, here. And now the king's a little bit opened up. He might have tactics with like f4 and getting down in the 7th rank. So white remains slightly better. Then he just hesitates with a different move here. Okay. Yeah, this guy played pretty well, although he was hesitant. Now he's all over the map. You know, he's basically playing all over the board. g4, f3, king h7. It's getting kind of scary here. Should he have put his king on h7 or h8? I don't know. Now it's getting really complicated. And your rook and your like lateral mobility turns out to be quite powerful. Surprisingly, white is better, according to the engine. I mean, I'm not that convinced. But then he started to go crazy. So it's a very tense position. It's not clear really who's better. And he just walks his king out in the middle of the board. I mean, that's crazy. And then here, you missed f4, rook g1, e4. And I mean, you have a protected passed pawn, but that seems like a kind of strange move because it makes your pawns inflexible. So I'm looking for f4 if I can get it. I mean, king h8 is a good waiting move for black here. I agree. You don't want to get checked at an inconvenient moment. And your queen is covering the h6 square. So this seems like as good a moment as any to do like king h8. And then you're threatening like f4 inconveniently for him. I think that would have been best. You could commit to e4. Apparently this is a good move too. But I mean, we're not up any material here. You know, it's hard to believe that black is just totally winning so easily as the engine claims. Now it's over. Just committed suicide. Kind of lucky. Alright guys, I got time for one more game here to analyze. So we've got, I mean, it was an interesting game, but I feel like your win was kind of lucky. Like, it was complicated, and you just committed harikiri with king e3. I mean, and the king f2 in the first place. He shows no sense of danger as far as king safety goes. You were much more respectful of king safety. So, Chess Pats or Wales, the same guy, Bert Rout, that you mentioned, Chess Pats or Wales playing what, white? No, he's black against the same opening. Oh, that's cool. But this is different. Was the other a Mora? No. Okay. Bertrute against, okay, so he's like a gambit player. He played the two knights with, or rather, he played the two knights defense with knight g5 against s4. Now he's playing this. Doesn't be showing up in my inbox. Did I send you an invite to the game I shared? Gary Fang, I just saw Stargar in my inbox, and I asked if that was a subscriber. But other than that, no, I didn't get anything. I don't know if we're gonna have time for another game at the stage. I think we have to end it after 7 o'clock. So this is a Mora, and then okay, Chessmaster Wells just played d5. This should transpose to a c3 Sicilian. It's just a way of playing like a kind of line of the c3 Sicilian. I don't think this is a great line. This is funny, Zlatko Topalovic. That's got to be a correspondence game. But anyway, it's a simple solution for black here. If you don't have a lot of time to study, you know, you don't have time to like really study the details of the Mora, you can play either knight f6 or, in this case, d5, and either one is going to transpose into a variation of the c3 Sicilian. In this way, you can simplify the amount of theory that you need to learn. The downside is that the c3 Sicilian might be a little bit trickier to analyze and a little trickier to equalize against than the Mora Gambit. So I believe that black equalizes against the Mora Gambit convincingly and in more than one line. Whereas in the c3 Sicilian, I don't think it's that easy to claim that black automatically equalizes. It's harder to equalize against the c3 Sicilian than the Mora Gambit. But the problem is that the Mora Gambit is like scarier because it's like more tactical. You just need to put in the time to learn it, but whatever. So ED, queen takes d5, and now like what? CD4. Yeah, so we have this like kind of mainline standard position. Now e5 is a common line. Knight c6 is a common line. Knight c6, knight f3, and now you have two approaches, e5 being the better one. Now by playing e6 here, I'm wondering about this. If there's anything wrong with e6. I think there was some mention of this bishop g4, but the problem with bishop g4 is basically like knight c3. I'm not sure how safe these variations are. Let's see, queen a5, d5, and then like rook d8. Yeah, this looks like kind of dangerous for black. I don't think this is considered to be okay. So that's out. But e5 is the main move. This seems to be your best chance. Like if you want to play this really simplified variation, this knight c3, bishop b4, and then like there's the choice. And well, typically you run into bishop d2, but the other move is really kind of scary. This bishop e2, e4, and then white sacks a piece. And this is really scary. I think that this is dangerous. I start playing the c3 Sicilian if people do this. So it looks like you have to play e4, and I don't know this too well. Castles almost reminds me like a Danish gambit or something. I guess this is okay for black. Satovsky. Somebody even played this. That has the feeling of a computer move. But queen d8. I don't know where the theory stands, but I guess it's playable for black. A lot of draws. That's a good sign. Satovsky played it. That's a good sign. He's very theoretical. But that's probably your best shot. Let's see what you did, though. Okay, is e6 okay? Do we just simply transpose to a normal variation here? Is it that simple? Okay, you played bishop b4. And we're getting close to like Kasparov versus Deep Blue or something. But a queen d8 would be, you know, kind of like the normal-ish move, right? Are we going to just transpose? Bishop d3. I'm not taking that pawn. Knight f6. Castles. So here we can transpose back into a normal line with queen d8. Or we can try to risk queen d6. But can we play queen d6 here? I don't know. Is there any way to exploit this? This again could transpose. There's some independent moves though. It looks like g3's never been played before. Kind of a scary move. So I don't know where this goes really. Let's see your move though. Bishop e4. It seems playable. Rajkovic played it, but just a lot of random games. How bad is this? Bishop b4, bishop d2. Okay, that's Alexander Lishenko. I actually know him from St. Petersburg. He's like a chess coach, a friend of a friend of mine. Might have been in Budapest once. Bishop d3 seems better to me. Bishop d2 is just kind of weak, you know. So now you take. You don't have to take though. You could just play queen d8. So this is what Lishenko did, and bishop d2 didn't really do much for him. It feels like it doesn't look like a problem. So at the end of the day, I mean, bishop d2 is passive, but you almost justify it by giving up the bishop here. Now I'm expecting b takes. He does. Now actually, Chesspatz or what else? I have seen similar lines to this from different move orders that have been recommended for black, but I'm not sure if this exact move order is okay or not. You can't play h6. This is just a bad move. But you can play a developing move, you know, knight f6. I mean, you've got to play a developing move. So let's say knight f6. What does white do? More or less like bishop e2, castles, castles, and then b6. And I don't know, this doesn't look that bad for black, actually. The question is, white can do anything or not here, you know, because we're going to complete our development with like bishop b7, and then like rook c8. Maybe black's position isn't so bad. Let's see. So c6, queen d6. It reminds one of some known lines, actually. It doesn't seem that bad to me. But this h6 move raises alarm bells. You know, h6, it's too slow, and white is going to probably be able to blow you away with like c4 and d5 if you get any slower here. So queen b3, it's an awful move in the sense that I think that white is passing up on chances to play for the initiative. It's not a terrible move itself, but I think this is just passive. So he needs to play like aggro against that queen on d5 more dynamically for ideas of c4. This is not a dynamic move. It's like a safe move. But white has got to exploit his development lead here. You know, he has a dynamic position with hanging pawns and a lead in development, and he's trading queens. You know, I mean, that doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense. Why is he trading queens when he has the dynamic initiative? Of course, this exchange is not good for you. You don't really want to exchange on his terms, but he also doesn't want to exchange on your terms. So we just stay in a state of stasis here. And this is a bad move too, you know, releasing the tension. So he should just develop. You know, you don't want to exchange, he doesn't want to exchange. You know, he just does this. This is weak. Now it's a tough decision. You took the right way, I guess, with the pawn. It's hard to do that. A lot of people are very anal about their pawn structure, but if you do this, it does look like, you know, his pawns become kind of dynamic again. So good decision taking with the pawn, and you give yourself an Isolani. But he has the hanging pawn, so you both have a static weakness. It sort of balances out. Does white's bishop pair constitute an advantage, though? That's the question. Here, castles, castles, knight e4. And now I like it. I mean, you have two good knights, really, and a bad bishop that can be active. You know, so you're okay. I'm more concerned about his bishop than any other piece really being a problem in this position. You played a6, but that move is just useless. Really, I mean, his bishop is doing no harm on b5, so you should not play a6. This move doesn't help you, really. I mean, I guess you could play b5 and try to lock it. Let's see. But he just takes, so you essentially lost the tempo. Now it's approximately equal. Yeah, this is a bad exchange, though. I mean, that's a bad piece on d2. You definitely shouldn't play knight takes bishop. And the resulting position may be okay for you, but you're asking for trouble here. a5 is very strong, as the engine points out, to activate the bishop maybe with bishop a6. I'm a little bit worried about his knight coming into e5 here. So you have a lot of choices. You could probably even play f6. The problem is he goes rook b6 and he gets the first threat. And you have to play a little passively after that with like bishop d7. I mean, even this is okay for black. But I definitely don't like taking his bad bishop. Here it's a bit risky. Bishop f5. Now he's... Oh man, I mean, you can't play rook b3 here. He has to take the initiative. Rook b6 gains a tempo. He vitally needs to do that. Now you're just okay. Now you're just okay. And this was a good move, rook e3 by him. And I don't know if you should exchange or not, but I guess you had to do something. So, getting really technical now. I'm a little worried about your king position. Okay, we need to get the king to d6 ASAP. We also had the problem of him infiltrating on the 7th. So you have some issues here. There may be nothing you can do about all these problems. You have to stay active. You blocked his rook entry, that's good. But now there was a bad move. Okay, f5 is really, really bad. Because if he gets his knight into e5, you're in a lot of trouble. You need the f pawn to go to f6 to stop him from getting an outpost on e5. Computer's talking about c5. That's a hard move to play. I would settle for centralizing the king here with king f8. Get my king to d6. And it's a draw, probably. That would be the safe approach. Here you played very bad move, f5. That's almost like positionally suicidal. Now it's like a Stonewall Dutch where he's got the monster knight forever. You know, very, very bad. Rook e8. This doesn't do anything. Your king is neglected here on g8. He has a better king for descending. But I don't know. I mean, it's still not that easy for him to win. c5 was a good move. Getting rid of that weakness, probably trading it off. But he's not helping himself here. He's just trading pawns. So trading pawns doesn't help him. Now you have another file, possibly, for your rook. F file or C file, and it's a draw. Just a draw now. Not a draw, but equal. You know, it should be a draw. And now you got lots of play. You took a pawn. And, yeah, I mean, you even have threats. Bishop c4 seems reasonable. Rook check, king up. As long as you don't let him mate you, you're good to go. Now g5 might have been a little bit dangerous, actually. Let's see what you can do. Yeah, it's fine. But no. King here. Maybe king g7. I don't know. Time pressure, yeah, it's pretty scary. But you're almost getting mated. So you're possibly still hanging on. Yeah, king position too powerful, now it's lost. Alright, good fight, but there's no way you should have lost at the end, aside from the time pressure. It was a decent game, but f5 was a really, really bad move. You're lucky after you played that, you know, you actually were okay. So it was kind of back and forth, but the guy ended up playing that really well. At the end of the day, he had 15 cent pawn loss. That's not bad, and I think like some of his inaccuracies toward the end there, letting you back in the game after knight e5. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching and subscribing. Thanks for supporting the stream. I'm International Master William Paschall. We'll see you guys tomorrow with Blitz Chess, 10 a.m. EDT here, morning time, 5+3 casual. Thanks, Soltigo. Thanks, everybody, for joining the stream. Please support the stream with donations. If you can donate bits or just on PayPal, please click the link in the Twitch stream and the YouTube channel. Thanks so much, everyone, for subscribing, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.